Joe, we're at Comic-Con 2023. We're at the top of the DC booth. You have some very exciting news about your new book that's been announced, Kneel Before Zod. What can you share about Zod in this context?
Well, we're taking him back to his bastard roots. He's been kind of a nice guy the last few times we've seen him in DC, in the comics. And they came to me and said, it's time to make him what he's supposed to be, which is a real bad guy, evil guy. I was like, I'm your man. I'm your man. I know how to do that. I know how to write a bastard. I've got personal experience there. So it's worked out. It's a fun gig.
What can you tell us about the art style, the approach that you wanted to have for this iteration of Zod?
Well, first of all, the art is by an artist named Dan McDade. Great artist. His first mainstream DC work. And it's sort of, there's a hard sci-fi element to it. There's kind of a heavy metal element to it. If you like bad people having bad things done to them, this is the book for you. So the first issue has probably the harshest thing I've ever had a character do to another character. And that's just the first issue. It gets worse from there. But I'm excited. It's going to be good.
As far as the setting for this, what can you give us as far as the lead up for Zod's story?
Well, Zod and his family, yes, Zod has a family, have settled on a distant planet they're refashioning into a Krypton-like world for them that Zod can run and Zod can lord over. The problem is there's not much to do there. It was pretty easy to, it wasn't even a conquering of the world. It was just like he showed up and the natives went, yes, Zod, and that was it. So he's kind of a soldier without a war when the series starts, which is not where he really wants to be, even though he thought that's where he wanted to be. And that's part of the impetus for him to get back to his, what I call his bastard roots, because he thought he wanted one thing, he got it. It's usually the thing you don't need. And that's in Zod's case, it's being the ruler of a planet, ruler of all he surveys. It's a little emptier than he thought it would be.
Since you're taking the story into a different world, do we see any other cosmic characters or cosmic settings that you can share at this point?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out what I can spoil and what I can't spoil. Let's just say a lot of the cosmic DC characters and DC alien races will show up in the book. Some villains that I'm excited about writing, haven't written before, that span the past, present, and future of the DCU. That gives people some kind of hints. I don't know. Maybe somebody will parse something out of that.
Aside from the obvious Superman 2 connection for people and knowing who Zod is, why do you think this character has withstood the test of time within the DC universe?
Well, every other Superman adversary that you know of, Lex Luthor and those guys, they're kind of Superman's opposite number. Lex is brains, where Superman is brawn. Zod is basically evil Superman. He has all his powers, but none of the morality. So it's really if Superman went to the dark side. I think that's what's appealing about him, because it's Superman with no filter, no limits, no rules. And I think that's kind of a power fantasy of its own for a certain type of reader. And I'm leaning into it hard.
So for the people that are watching this right now, if you could summarize in maybe a sentence or two, what would be the pitch and why they should be reading this book?
Anyone who's read the last few appearances of Zod and thought it was a little off, or that he wasn't quite acting himself in the traditional sense of being Superman's possible most credible threat, that's what we're trying to get back to. So, like I said, it's bad things happen to bad people, and what comes of those actions is what the whole series is about.
I also like to ask, are there any books that you're reading right now that have just surprised you as far as the current, I'd say, landscape of comics?
That's a good question. I mean, I've been around long enough that I'm reading things that guys I know write. Like Michel Fiffe is an independent cartoonist, has a book called Copra. I love that book. The stuff that Mark Miller's doing over at Image, the Ambassadors and the new Nemesis series, and now the Big Game crossover, he's killing it. That's kind of it. That's the stuff I've sort of been excited for lately.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. Stay tuned for more DC coverage at Comics Online.